Can you switch on the recording? Thank you. So before we actually begin our session or start our session, a quick update. I thought I'll be out of session this weekend, but it's been postponed to Duster. That's the next week. So I'm available. So that's the reason in the group chat I posted the message saying that we would be having our session. Okay, tomorrow. That's morning and evening, 8 a.m. Indian Standard Time. 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Sunday 8 a.m. Indian Standard Time will have it. Evening schedule I'll confirm you by Saturday evening. Okay. When we are trying to start our Saturday evening session, I'll confirm whether we have a session on Sunday evening or not. Okay. Kindly be available. Kindly be patient with me for a couple of more days. Okay. So that we can wrap up the things. Okay. And I keep on saying this line in every batch, and I don't feel bored saying this again and again. But thing is that I'm available not only during the training but post the training also. Okay, admin job is such a kind of a job where you need to have a good analytical skills. Apart from that, lot of practice on the different options available. So it's like administration is something like a tool. Okay, the more you're acquainted with the tool, okay, the better it would be for us. Okay, as I say, when we want to learn a car, okay, if you go to a typical Indian market and try to learn a car, that fellow will help you to say to you what are the things that are there at a high level. It's you who have to buy a second-hand car, drive the car, meet with 1 or 2 accidents, then understand what's the problem, then you try to troubleshoot it. Okay, then you learn, oh, this is how I drive it. Okay, same is the administration also. Okay, from the training point of view, what unlike an typical Indian trainer, okay, typical Indian car driving trainer, I try to be as much as explanatory as possible. But something is not clear, something is not clarified any point of the time, not even during the training. Post the training also you can reach to me. But as I said, I keep on giving the statement that do a practice, practice, practice. That's how you can get best in the market. Clear? I think I'm done with my Shiva Swamiji Gyan sessions in the morning. Okay, let's get on with the subject if you don't have any questions. Anyone, any questions?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Vinu, you have any questions?
No, sure, no questions.
You're in office or working from home?
No, out of office today.
Oh, cool, great. So, a quick recap of what we have discussed in our last session. Okay, if you guys remember in our last session, okay, what we did is that we discussed about the CLI. Okay, how do we interact with the CLI? Okay, blah 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 things that are there in the CLI, that is read mode, write mode, add mode, execute mode, the other things. Okay, today actually the thought process was to start a messaging, but since Manju has requested us to start with the clustering, I'll try to start the clustering today. Okay, since the terminology of the clustering, either it's an app server, either it's a database, either it's an operating system. The features at a high level remains the same, but how it is implemented, it again depends upon product to product. So what we'll try to do right now is that we'll first understand what exactly is meant by cluster, what are the advantages of using a cluster, okay, and once we are done talking about that, we'll then talk about how exactly it is implemented inside the JBoss application server. But before we do that, anyone, any questions?
No.
Perfect. So let me quickly begin our session here. 2 minutes. I'm just trying to share my screen to you all. Cool. I don't have the diagram, no problem. Let me draw it. Good. So if you see the clustering, okay, what exactly is the cluster? Here, what is the difference, okay, between implementing an application on a clustered environment versus a non-clustered environment? I have an application by name, okay, facebook.com. I'm a typical person who always like to be active in the social network. So open the facebook.com early in the morning. I open the facebook.com in the afternoon. I open the facebook.com in the evening. I open the facebook.com in the night. Any time and every time I open the facebook.com, it says to me that, okay, that please log in with the credentials. Never and never it says that, okay, the site is not temporarily available, please reach us after some time. That kind of a pop-up message, that kind of a confirmation message, okay, you'll never get it. 24/7, round the clock, this site is available. The facebook.com round the clock is available. How it is possible? With the implementation of the cluster concepts. So what exactly is a cluster then? A cluster, as we all know, it's a group of server instances. Okay, what is a cluster? Cluster is nothing but I have a couple of servers. Okay, I have 1, 2 servers, 3 servers, okay, 4 servers, okay, 10 servers, whatever the number of servers I have got. If I can combine the group of servers and refer them as a single unit, the name given to the group of server instances acting together as a single unit, I call that one as cluster. Clear? What is a cluster? Cluster is nothing but group of server instances acting together as a single unit. Now, irrespective of the type of where exactly I'm trying to implement the cluster, be it been WebLogic, be it been WebSphere, be it been Tomcat, be it been database, be it been the operating system, if you see the cluster, okay, the main purpose of having the cluster is that it gives me a set of advantages. What are those set of advantages I have got? Okay, the advantages I have got is, one second. Yeah. So the advantages of implementing the clusters in my environment is it gives me an advantage of high availability. It gives me an advantages of scalability. It gives me an advantage of, one second. Everyone, okay. So it gives me an advantages of fail-safe operation or failover operation. It gives me an advantages of high availability. It gives me an advantage of scalability. It gives me an advantages of part-time load balancing or load balancing. Okay, as I said, okay, irrespective of the framework I'm in, be it an application framework or be it an operating system framework, whatever the framework I'm in, okay, the advantage of implementing a cluster is that it gives me an advantages of a failover or a fail-safe operation, 24/7 round-the-clock high availability, the scalability, and load balancing. Sure, what are the, we know that these are the advantages, but what do you mean by these advantages? If you see our cluster, okay, cluster, as I said, what is a cluster? Cluster is nothing but group of server instances acting together as a single unit. So I have server 1, I have server 2, okay, I have server 3, I have server 4. So these 4 servers I'm having. I'm trying to group these 4 servers and I'm trying to refer them as a single unit. The name given to this particular group, okay, having the combining the servers together, acting together as a single unit, that one I call it as a cluster. So if you see the first advantage, load balancing, how the cluster gives me an advantages of a load balancing? When a flush of requests comes and hits the cluster JNDI, when I'm trying to implement a clustered environment in my architecture, okay, I don't allow any of the requests to directly go and hit the individual instance. I always route the request, okay, through a clustered environment. to a cluster namespace. So when I'm doing it in that way, when a flush of request comes and hits my cluster JNDA, depending upon the algorithm I have got, okay, depending upon the algorithm I have got, it might be an depending upon application service. Again, this algorithms are varied. So depending upon the algorithm I have got, okay, the request might go to server 1, server 2, server 3, or server 4. So if you see the terminology for the load balancing. So what exactly is this load balancing? Okay, since when the cluster receives a flush of requests, it might be 2 requests, 10 requests, 20 requests, 100 requests. Whatever the number of requests that are coming and hitting the cluster patiently tries to understand the request, okay, and depending upon the type of request that is there, according to that, okay, it might go and hit a particular server 1 or a particular server 2, or all the flush of requests will go and hit only one particular server. Since your cluster is able to hold the load for a certain duration of the time, for a shorter interval of the time, and depending upon the algorithm, okay, since it's able to divert the traffic to a particular environment or to a particular instance, okay, I can say that my cluster gives me an advantage of load part-time load balancing, or I can say that my cluster gives me an advantage of load balancing. Any questions?
No, clear.
When you have any questions for me?
Oh, no questions.
So if no questions, let me continue. Give me a minute, guys. Today my mom isn't there, so I have to manage myself, and my wife has to manage the kid. Okay. So
A
he's
big
around,
job.
yeah, very difficult job because he's around 11 months old,
Yeah.
and very difficult to say yes or very difficult to say no to him. Okay, I just moved into another room. Okay, cool. So this is what is a load balancing. What is the scalability then? How we can define the scalability? Very simple. Scalability, the term scalability, I can define it as, okay, ability to automatically adjust to the load requirement. I can term that one as a scalability. Okay, what is the scalability? Depending upon the changes in the load requirement, if I can automatically add or remove the server instance without impacting the existing environment, then I can say that that environment gives me an advantage of scalability. Simple example, if you see your Indian Railways department, especially during this time when your Dasra is on, followed by the Diwali, followed by Christmas, okay, followed by the New Year, this 3 to 4 months is a time period, okay, where there will be a lot of demand for the reservations, okay, especially to the places from Hyderabad to Vijayawada or to Tirupati or to Bangalore or to Chennai. These are the places where there will be a lot of demand for the reservations. Let's say that there's a train traveling from Hyderabad to Vijayawada having a seating capacity of around, let's say, 400 seats. And for this 400 seats, let's say that there are 10 compartments available. But during this time, okay, the Indian Railway people, the demand for the reservation spikes up like anything. So they have got two options, okay. For the increased load of another 500 seating capacity, they got two options. Option number one, buy a new
Yes.
train. Yeah, buy a new train, okay, having a seating capacity of around 1500 people, run the train for this 4 months, okay. After that, okay, dismantle the train and again buy a new train, okay, having the lower capacity. And again, when a festival season is on, again they try to bring back that particular train which is having a 1500 capacity, and after the month of Jan is done, again get back the another train having a less seater capacity. This is option number one. There is another beautiful option called as an option number two. What they can try to do is that to the existing train only, in front couple of more compartments, in the back couple of more compartments. they can add that one and they can try to increase the reservation capacity so that they meet the load whatever they're trying to get. So after this festival season is done, what they can do is that after the month of Jan, Pongal, okay, they can try to remove couple of more bogies, okay, whatever they attach as they see the changes in the demand for the reservation. So unlike option number one, the advantage I have with the option number two is that I have a flexibility to add or remove the bogies without disturbing the existing train. There is no need for me to dismantle or buy a new train. Using the existing infrastructure only, just by adding couple of more bogies, I'm automatically able to scale up or I'm automatically able to scale down the reservation capacity. That is nothing but scalability. And your clustered environments 100% supports the scalability. Clear, everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone? Any questions?
No, clear.
When you're clear? Okay. Silence. I'll assume it's clear. If anything is not clear, kindly let me know.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So the next advantage we have is a failover or a fail-safe operation. Let's take a simple example. Let's say that we all work as a sysadmin. Okay. At least I started off my career as a Java developer. Then I went into the support role. So if you see the role of a sysadmin, 24/7, this team needs to be available. Be it be holidays, be it be vacation, be it be any emergency. But this team is a team that has to be available 24/7 round the clock. So let's say that I'm working for a company or for a bank, let's say Bank of America. So when I'm working for the Bank of America people, okay, generally any request they're trying to route to the infrastructure team, let's say that there's a DL called as an infrastructure DL. So I have a friend of mine, okay, and I'm working as a project manager. That fellow is a client to the Bank of America. So he has two options. He's trying to use the one of the service of the Bank of America. He has two options. He can directly do an email to me and say that, hey Shiva, I have so and so problem in this particular environment. Could you please check and let me know? That's option number one. Option number two, create a ticket and route the ticket, okay, to the infrastructure specialist, okay, DL list. He can do either of them. Okay, am I clear with the example? We are trying to take an example wherein which I'm working for a Bank of America, okay, and I'm working for a particular project, okay, and this is a support project, and I'm a project manager. I have a friend of mine who's using the services of a Bank of America and is a very premium customer to the bank. Okay, he's given a scale of gold and above. So he has a problem with the service. So two ways he can resolve that. He can try to drop an email to me since I'm a project manager, or he can raise a ticket, okay, and assign the ticket to my team called as an infrastructure specialist team. If you are a customer, which option you will pick up? Option 1 or option 2? Manju, Venu. If you are a customer, would you people prefer to pick up option 1 or option 2? Let's say that, okay, if you people ask me, I'll go with an option number 1 where I drop an email to the project manager. How about you guys?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. I missed.
Sorry?
I didn't quite catch that. I missed it.
Oh, no. I'm saying we are trying to understand the clustering concept. So as part of that, I took an example wherein which I'm saying that I work for a company called as in Bank of America, and I work for the support services. And I'm responsible for a particular team where I also work with the team. So let's say that I'm a project manager or infrastructure senior architect. Okay. Then I have a friend of mine who is using the Bank of America services, and he is an premier or a very high worthy customer to the Bank of America. Privileged customer to Bank of America. He has two options when he's trying to encounter an issue. He has been given two options. Since I'm one of his very closest friend, he can drop me an email saying that Shiva, I'm trying to use so and so service of Bank of America. I'm having so and so problem. Option two, he can try to raise a ticket, okay, and assign it to the corresponding infrastructure specialist team which I handle. Which one you think would be the best option? Option one or option two?
Option one is not feasible, or he shouldn't be doing, because it's against. Even though you're his personal friend, he can't approach you directly. That is professionally, personally he can do.
I work for the Bank of America, which doesn't have any professional ethics, which doesn't have any security ethics.
You may not have, but the bank will have.
The bank also doesn't have. It made an announcement recently on the occasion of Duster that we are for XYZ reasons, okay, we don't have any professional ethics, we don't have any security ethics. You play whatever the way you want, but I'll ensure that customer doesn't come to me.
No, I mean, I'm not sure about that one, but usually for auditing purposes, or like keeping track of the records of all these issues or anything, it's good to raise tickets, or like, you know, to the customer calls or something like that.
Email is also an official copy, which I can give it to my auditor saying that, okay, this particular work is being worked out because of so-and-so request coming from so-and-so person. Please find a copy of the email on the same. I can do that, and definitely auditor will accept that, okay, because I worked as a part-time auditor for one of my team. Yeah, but that's a different scenario. Any other reason why you try to pick up option one or option two?
I mean, for me, it would be option two, because it has to go through the proper levels rather than directly approaching a resource, or, you know, for anything, for any reason, whether it's personal or professional or anything, because there is no sort of what do you call, control, or like, you know, no, all the other teams are not involved who should be aware of things, and normal topology, or like.
Just sorry to interrupt, but I'm saying that I'll make sure that all the team members, okay, or once the ticket is being closed, okay, all the team members, all the stakeholders get a copy of what exactly is being worked out. I take that responsibility. I'll take that responsibility.
I mean, see here, the work may be done. He might approach you, but things might be done, but it's unethical to me.
As I said, Bank of America never stops me to do any unethical things as long as customer doesn't come back to me.
Okay, then I give up. I don't know.
Okay. Venu, how about you? You work for support, Venu, or is it that you are a developer?
Support.
Okay, cool. Then you should be able to answer this question.
Yes.
Yep. Which one you will pick up? Which one you'll pick up?
Yeah.
Thinking so much. You're staying in Hyderabad or Bangalore?
Bangalore.
You have any internet? Do you use internet?
Yes.
Who is the vendor?
ACT.
Oh, Act Fiber. Good. I also use the same fellow. If you have a problem with the Act Fiber net, the senior manager there, okay, is your closest friend. Every weekend you people sit and go to a bar, enjoy, come back. Every weekend you do. You both are one of the ideal example for the friendship. So tell me, would you talk to your project? Would you talk to that particular person who's the director? Let's say who's the director of the Act FiberNet, one of the founder on director of the Act FiberNet, or do you raise a ticket?
Yes, directly will ask him.
Any special reason why?
That's India for you.
Okay. Vinny, any specific reason?
Because he is well-known person to me, so I'll ask him whether he can help me out, means what is the ways to help.
Think for 2 minutes, you guys. Just think for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Seriously, people started thinking for 2 minutes.
And I'm waiting
Now,
for 2 minutes because my answer is consistent.
Okay.
my answer is we can.
I
Your
mean, what
option
you
is
can
option
do
number one.
is I mean, as a friend, you can expedite the process, but we should still follow the, what I've said.
Process.
I'll stick to that.
Why?
I mean, if someone like, okay, cool.
Manju, you're married?
Yeah, I've got 3 kids as well.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought of giving an example, but it doesn't suit to the married people. Okay, anyway, coming back to my example.
It's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So, coming back to me, I'll go with the option number 2. Okay. If someone asks me the same question, I'll go with the option number 2. If someone asks me why you'll go with the option number 2, the reasons I would give is that, okay, first thing is that irrespective of whether I'm trying to follow the process or when I'm trying to use it for auditing or blah 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 reason, the reason why I try to raise this ticket to the support team and assign it to the support team is because when a request goes to the support team, it's not going to one person or 2 persons or 3 persons. It goes to a group of people. The advantage of the request going to the group of people is that I'll have a kind of an confirmation, or I'll keep to know about the status whatever it is happening there. If let's say that, as I said, okay, I have a very good friend of mine, okay, even though I'm a good friend of mine, let's say I might have some emergency, or let's say that I told to my friend that, okay, I'll look into the ticket, give me some time. I don't understand his criticality or the priority. In the same way, okay, even the friend who has raised a ticket, he can't say that, oh, this is a priority, please work on it and give me a solution in 2 to 3 minutes, or less than 2 to 3 hours, okay. But if I'm trying to raise it to a support ticket, what will happen is that there will be a group of people 24/7 round the clock working on that particular request, and I'll keep on getting the response on how exactly it is happening up. Clear? Not clear?
But he approaching you is a priority, right?
He approaching to me is a priority, but that priority when it comes to professional, that's the reason I'm sure if you heard this, okay, or if you're from Hyderabad, or if you know Telugu, then you're knowing about this famous saying, pekata tamudu tamude. Which in the sense, okay, professional is profession, personal is personal. Okay, definitely I'll help him out. I'll try to go to the support team and ask him, okay, hey guys, please work on this request. Okay, but that is not the way the support works. Point number 1, and point number 2 is that, okay, if the ticket is coming to as an email to me, okay, I'm not sure whether I'll be checking the email or not. He has to keep on calling me up. Let's say that I'm in a one good holiday mood, okay, and imagine that I'm not picking up the call. Imagine that I didn't look at the email. So he has to wait till I respond back to him. But let's say that if he's trying to raise a ticket to the support DL, support distribution list, okay, there'll be an acknowledgement. He will be guaranteed to deliver a response. Correct or not?
Yeah.
That is what is the fail-safe and failover operation. When you're trying to deploy and request onto a clustered environment, it will not be 1 or 2 servers that are working. Okay, when the request comes and hits your clustered environments, now cluster will decide, okay, to which particular instance I need to send the request. You might ask me a question, sure, how? When I'm having an application deployed on a cluster, okay, cluster is like a DL for you. Okay, whenever ticket comes and gets assigned to the DL, it's not only one particular person who can view the ticket. All the people who are part of that particular distribution list can see that particular email, can see that particular ticket. In a similar way, whenever you're trying to deploy your application on top of your cluster, every server instance will have a copy of that particular application. So whenever in any server, when I'm saying that every server will have a copy of the deployed application, okay, when the request comes and hits the cluster, cluster will decide that, okay, either server 1 or server 2 will work on that. Let's say that server 1 is working on that particular request, okay, some reason, okay, in the middle of processing the request, the server went down. Okay, again go back to the example. Okay, when I'm assigning a ticket to a distribution list, okay, let's say support engineer 1 is working on that particular request. There was an emergency for him and he has to leave the office. Then what he'll do in warm transition, or he'll try to do a KT of the ticket that is being worked out by him, and he'll say to the support person B that, hey B, till this particular step I completed the troubleshooting, please coordinate with the customer and complete the remaining work. In a similar way, when you're trying to deploy a particular application and when a particular server instance is working on that particular request, when something goes wrong on that particular server instance, there is a failover. There is a fail-safe operation happening up to another server which picks up the request and starts processing the request. As a customer, I'm least bothered whether support engineer 1 is working, support engineer 2 is working, or entire company is working on that particular request. I'm only concerned whether my issue is resolved or not. Same here also. Irrespective of whether server 1 is working or server 2 is working, client doesn't care how many servers are working or not any one server is working. Client is only concerned that for his request, okay, is there any response coming or not. So since the cluster has a capability to do a failover or a fail-safe operation for any issues to another server, round the clock 24/7, I can give a guarantee that my application is highly available. Any questions?
No, clear.
When you have any questions, we can go back to the example also. When you clear? I'm not sure if I lost you. When you are able to hear us?
Able to hear.
Okay. Any questions you have? Okay. If no questions, I have a question. In a JBoss application server, okay, if I want to implement a cluster, what are the profiles I need to consider?
HA or full HA, whether it's
Why?
standalone or domain.
Why?
Those are the only profiles which support high availability.
Perfect. Okay. So remember, when someone is asking you a question on how do I configure a clustered environment either from a standalone or a domain using a full profile or using a default profile, don't start immediately giving an answer. Remember that the concept of clustering is only and only applicable to HA related profiles, that is full -HA and HA profile. Believe it or not, when I accidentally asked this question to one of an interviewer, okay, to one of the person, then he started explaining about the complete things which we try to do. Then I asked him, think twice, once again, and he said, no, sure, this is a perfect step, and we have to configure a mod cluster, do the changes there, do the changes here. I said, okay, thanks. And end of the day, he got rejected. It's not because of only that answer, but many other things were there which contributed for that. But as I said, please be cautious, okay, while trying to use the term cluster in a JBoss, because for WebLogic, for WebSphere, Tomcat, there isn't any restriction that, hey, this is the terms and conditions you need to adhere to. For JBoss, to implement a cluster, you need to ensure that you have an high available profile, which is HA or full -HA. Clear?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here we're clear about what exactly is a cluster, what is the definition of the cluster, what are the advantages of implementing a cluster, okay, and what are the prerequisites to complete a cluster. But how it is implemented inside the JBoss application server. If you see the JBoss application server, in JBoss application server, the terminology called as a cluster, the architecture called as a cluster is implemented using two frameworks. First one is called as an JGroups framework. The second one is called as an InfiniSpan framework. Clear? If you see the clustering inside the JBoss application server, the clustering inside the JBoss application server is implemented by using two frameworks. First one is the JGroups framework. Second one is a InfiniSpan framework. JGroups framework is mainly meant for allowing a communication between the cluster instances. InfiniSpan is mainly meant to achieve the failover or a fail-safe or a high availability capability. But before we try to discuss more about this, okay, let's quickly begin our discussion by starting an domain instance. Give me 1 minute, it's getting started.
Shiva, I've got a question. Like some
No
people
problem.
do clustering in standalone mode as well. So I mean, what are the disadvantages? Is it just because we don't have server groups in standalone? Other than that, there won't be much differences between both.
See, frankly speaking, okay, if you ask me the difference, okay, as I say every time, there is hardly any difference between the standalone and domain mode. Even for the standalone mode also, we can do a horizontal scaling, okay, but that is the load balancing we are trying to do. That is not the clustering we are trying to do. Clear? If you see in a domain mode, we are 100% implementing the clustering, okay. What exactly is the core functionality of a clustering? The core functionality of a clustering is to ensure that we have a high availability feature implemented with the help of a failover or a fail-safe operation. I'm not sure if you guys had this experience, okay, but whenever trying to access the sites like HDFC or an online SBI.bank.com, you're trying to check an account balance or you're trying to check in statements, suddenly, okay, you try to click on an option, it says that, okay, please try to relog in. Okay, please try to relog into the site. Why exactly it is happening? Because, okay, in one of the clustering concepts, okay, many people assume that this is my personal opinion, many people assume that, okay, this is an optional feature or a capability of a cluster. For me, this is a mandatory field. So why I'm saying about this point is that many people say that instance isn't down, okay, but I'm trying to transfer the session data from one server to another server, because of which the cluster, okay, in a clustering environment, okay, the users, as part of an high availability, the users might experience, okay, a difficulty and they might need to log in when the transaction data is lost. And still they say that that environment is a clustered environment. For me,
If you have sticky session enabled on the load balancer, which would go to the same server, I mean the transaction is completely processed sort of in the same server, so you wouldn't lose any transactions, isn't it? Info.
Okay. When you enable the session stickiness at the load balancer, whatever you said that, okay, there will be a session affinity implemented, wherein which, okay, the requests from the same user will go to the same server again and again and again. Perfectly fine. But imagine that that server instance goes down. Then two options we'll have. By implementing the hardcore features of the clustering, wherein which you'll try to transfer the session data automatically to the backup server, or the other one is that whatever the session data is there, okay, it will be kept in one particular common location like using a memcache, okay, and the new server which is coming and accessing the information, okay, it doesn't know till what particular point the server has completed the request, okay. In those scenarios, what will happen is that the users will be forced to do a re-login. The users, it will not say the site is not available. You'll be automatically logged out and logged in. Why? We lost the session data. Clear? Some people say that still that's okay because that's a whatever I'm saying, that is fail or a fail safe is an optional concept, but for me there's a mandatory concept.
So you mean in standalone we don't have fail or fail safe, only high availability?
Yes.
Okay.
If you want to do that, you need to implement the, some other session replication frameworks, okay, but that's completely out of our scope. We'll not talk about that. And this one also, frankly speaking, out of scope, but I just picked up as a question. Cool. So Venu, you have any questions?
No, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I logged into my JBoss application server. Let me go into my configuration folder, okay, and pick up the profile collision full-HA profile. You see something called
Sure.
yeah, Venu.
Sure. I'm sorry for pausing you. Actually, I had it out. I forgot to ask you. Yesterday, I went to interview with for a Wells Fargo. Yeah.
Hyderabad?
Yes, I was looking for Hyderabad only. So the first question was difference between XA and non-XA.
I many times asked this question also and asked to
Yeah, but what I said is they want in a functional way. I'm telling in technical way it's a global transaction and all. They're expecting in a functional way.
Okay. Okay.
So when you find time, can you please help with it? I said it's a global transaction. I said it's a global transaction, and non-XA it's a non-global transaction with multiple dates. They said no, they want functional weights. It's how it actually works.
Okay, that's a technical. Okay, I'm not sure why that person has used the term called as an functional one.
Can you please help me with this when you find time? You asked many times, of course.
Yeah, sure. I'll definitely. Give me some time. Either today we'll try to talk about that, or else tomorrow, before we begin our session, let me know. Okay?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much.
And small request, okay? Never and never say when someone asks you about the differences between the X and non-XA, you might start saying that, okay, XM is global transaction enabled, non-XM is non-transaction enabled. You can start with that, but I prefer you to get to the root level of what exact is an XA.
Okay.
How exact is the transaction enabled happening up? When they say that it's a functional, they're not asking you to explain how we configure XA or a non-XA data source in the JBoss or in any application server. They're asking you how exactly the XA framework works and non-XA framework works, okay? But I'll take this question tomorrow, okay?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much.
Just give me a reminder if I don't discuss today, tomorrow in the morning, okay?
That's what I was not able to attend yesterday and the day before yesterday classes for this only.
No problem. So how was the interview? End of the day?
It was good. It's a WebLogic, for WebLogic. 2 rounds they are taken.
Who was the project manager?
I don't know.
Or any chance to know the team?
No, Naveen, the name Naveen has taken interview.
Naveen Daya?
Yeah, maybe. He said Naveen.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So coming back to our concepts, okay. The moment you log into the JBoss admin console, pick up either a profile in this drop down, pick up the profile, either an HA profile or an HA profile, and go to the service collision core and click on the functionality collision J groups. What is this J groups, Shiva? Okay, when I click on the J groups, okay, I see two other protocols, TCP and UDP. What is this TCP? What is this UDP? What is the significance of them? J groups, as I said, is nothing but it is the one that is responsible for allowing the communication between the server instances. When I as a project manager or when I as an infrastructure architect saying that I'm going on a leave for 1 week, okay, when someone comes back to me, comes back for me, okay, my manager should know, or my team members should know, or my colleagues should know that Shiva was on leave. He's not reachable for so and so. That information has to be published. So what I generally do, I generally put an out of office alert, option 1, and I drop an email also to everyone saying that I will be on vacation from so and so date to so and so date, okay, for so and so reasons. Clear?
Mm-hmm.
You clearly say that, so that when someone is trying to contact you, they know that you're not available. As well as, okay, if someone from the internal team is trying to search for you, your team members knows that you're not available. They immediately say that Shiva is not available. Please try to reach him after a certain time. Similarly, over here also. In a JBoss application server, we are saying that there will be a failover or a failsafe happening up. Whenever there is a failover or a failsafe happening up, how is that one particular server instance knows that a server A is going down, and since I'm backup, let me take the rule. How that communication, how that will be initiated? Server A, okay, server B, server C, server D. Whenever there is a communication happening up on these 4 server instances, then only I'll be able to know that, okay, server A is going down for some reasons. Okay, how does the communication happen between the different server instances in the cluster? The server instances inside the cluster try to communicate with each and every one of them using the communication mode in the JBoss called as in J groups. Now, depending upon
So
which
it's
is
something
the
like multicast and unicast. I mean, sorry for interrupting.
no problem. I was about to talk about that. Okay,
Oh,
if you see
yes,
the
sorry.
J groups, no problem, no problem. If you see the J groups, okay, J groups is the one that will help us to have a communication between the cluster instances in the JBoss application server. One question might be, Shiva, what do you mean by UDP? What do you mean by TCP? UDP is the multicast mode of communication. Every instance in the cluster will emit an heartbeat or a signal to each and every other server in the cluster about its availability. If you're trying to use a TCP protocol, okay, TCP protocol is a one, it's like a not, we should not use the word called as in unicast, but TCP protocol is like a unicast mode of communication wherein which, okay, the cluster instances, okay, will be communicating with each other using the TCP channel. Okay, J groups, what is the purpose of a J groups? The J groups purpose is to ensure that the communication between the cluster instances happen. JBoss says that we give you 2 options, multicast or TCP protocol. If you want to use the multicast, then go with a protocol stack called as an UDP. And if you want to use an TCP protocol, go with a J group stack called as an TCP. You're able to see here? TCP. So if you see the UDP, okay, again under the UDP we have couple of options, ping options, merge option, FD options. Okay, it's not mandatory for us to know about every one of them, but ping is something which you have to know. Okay, if you see the properties of the ping, I don't think so you're getting it here. Let me get back to the
So the J groups and InfiniSpan is only available in the domain mode, right? It's not there in the standalone.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, you're able to see here?
Yeah.
Okay, and the properties related to this, okay, the socket binding groups, or what is the multicast details, okay, sorry, what is the TCP details, it will be used, okay, it will be there in your socket binding group. Are you able to see here? Clear?
Yep.
So this is about the
So what should be that multicast address?
you have to leave it with the default value, or there is a range that is supported. Okay, you can, it is 230.0.0.0 to 230.0.0.99 something like that is the range of the values. You can pick up any multicast address of your convenience.
230.0.0. Until what max?
99, I think.
Okay.
99, some 3-digit number.
Okay.
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 Shiva,
Yep.
can you tell me difference between this multicast and unicast?
Sorry.
Difference between multicast and unicast.
As I said, we don't have a unicast in the JBoss, okay? But if you're trying to get back to the WebLogic, I can even explain on that one also. But if you see here in the JBoss application server, we have UDP and TCP. UDP is the one that supports the multicast communication, wherein which each and every server in the cluster will emit an heartbeat to each and every other server instance in the cluster. In case of a TCP, it's not the multicast mode of communication, it's a TCP protocol. Okay, whatever the protocol that is used is a TCP protocol, using which the cluster instances will communicate with each other. Clear?
Thanks. Yeah. Why I asked, because this was one of the questions which was asked regularly.
Oh,
Messaging mode in cluster, both in JBoss and WebLogic.
I'm not sure why they're asking still the same question. That's it. Okay, no comments. Yeah. So this is about the J groups we have. Anyone, any questions on what is a J groups and why we need a J groups and what is the different protocol stack that is supported here?
No.
When you're clear?
Yeah, very much.
Cool. The next one we have is the InfiniSpan. Shiva, what is this InfiniSpan? InfiniSpan is a cache container. Very important to remember. InfiniSpan is a cache container. What is the responsibility of this InfiniSpan? When I'm saying that InfiniSpan is a cache container, it is the one that is responsible to hold the session data and support the replication functionality. Manju, do you know WebLogic? Have an idea about the clustering in the WebLogic?
Yeah.
Yeah, misunderstands. Okay. How about in WebSphere?
Yeah, I mean, I worked on WebLogic, but it's been a bit while for both
No
of us.
problem. How about WebSphere?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So I mean, WebLogic is fine. You can go on. I still remember.
Okay, cool. So if you see, I can take the example of the WebSphere also. When you're good in WebSphere or okay in WebSphere?
WebLogic.
Okay, WebLogic. No problem, no problem.
No
So
problem.
if you take conceptually, everything remains the same. Okay, either it's WebLogic or a WebSphere. But let me take the reference of an example because I come from a WebLogic background. Okay, more inclination towards that. Okay, yeah. So if you see here, in case of an WebLogic application server, I'm saying that okay, when a server 1 goes down, okay, server 2 will take the role of the server 1 and starts working on the request. Okay, if I'm going on a vacation, okay, my colleague who is my peer or the person working under me will take the responsibility of myself, okay, and he'll start working on the things that I left out. But how does that particular person knows that she has completed so and so things, okay, and so and so things are pending? I have to share that information to him, correct or not? When I'm trying to share that information, I can go to a meeting room and clearly explain them and take the snippet of the one that is there in the diagram and put it into the WhatsApp. Or I can open my email, try to drop a summary of the email communication we did, okay, summary of the communication we did in the email, or I can drop him a note about the things that are being covered by me and the things that are being pending for which he has to start working on it. So I'll try to put it in some location and share that information. Similarly, if you see here also, in case of a JBoss application server, okay, whenever one server instance goes down, it should give a zero impact to the customer by ensuring that the other server instance starts working on the request. For example, let's say that I have an application called as an add application. Let's say that I got an application called as an add application, which is responsible to do the summation of three numbers, A plus B plus C. Okay, this application responsibility is to do the summation of three numbers, A plus B plus C, and I got a server, I got a clustered environment, okay, wherein which I have server 1, server 2, server 3, server 4. Okay, and let's say this is a JBoss cluster. Okay, let's say this is the JBoss cluster we have got. Okay, so I deployed an application on this particular JBoss cluster. Since 1, 2, 3, 4 are the servers that are part of this particular cluster, each and every server will have a copy of this particular application. Okay, each and every server will have a copy of this particular application. Now what is happening up is that, let's say that my customers are coming in and interacting with the application. I just mentioned here one line, but imagine that I got 3 to 4 customers coming in accessing my application. Okay, so when I have got the customers coming in accessing my application, okay, so this is a clustered environment. So the request comes and hits the cluster. Okay, cluster told that, okay, server 1, I see that you're idle. So because of so and so algorithm, I'm picking you to start working on the request. Server 1 was working on that particular request. When server 1 works on that particular request, what it will try to do is that intelligently, before it starts working on the request, it creates something called as an session object. Okay, and once server 1 is being identified as a server that has to work on that particular request, we call server 1 as your primary server. Okay, when the server is being identified as a primary server, okay, it will ensure that someone becomes a backup for that server. So assume that, okay, your S2 is your secondary server. S2 is your secondary server. When S1 is your primary, S2 is your secondary. Perfectly fine. A server is being identified as a primary server and as a secondary server. Okay, we have two servers, server 1 and server 2. Before server 1 starts working on that particular request, it created an object called as a session object. Since this is a session object that is present on the primary server, I call this one as my primary session. The moment we have a primary session object, we'll also have a secondary session. Clear? Anyone? Any questions still here?
How does it know it's a primary server and a secondary server? Where do you configure that?
We don't have a facility to configure it either in WebSphere or in JBoss, but in Tomcat we have, but in WebLogic we have flexibility to define a particular server as a primary and a secondary. In case of a WebSphere and JBoss, okay, WebSphere and JBoss automatically has that intelligence to assign a particular server as a primary or a secondary.
Sorry, you were breaking up. I couldn't hear properly.
How about now? Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm saying that in case of, unlike WebLogic, okay, in case of a WebSphere or a JBoss, we can't say which one would be a primary, which one would be a secondary. It is internally taken care by the JBoss application server or WebSphere application server. For our discussion sake, I'm just assuming.
So whichever is available at the moment, it will just hits it. It denotes it as a primary server event.
Yes.
Okay.
Cool. So now server 1 starts processing the request. So as part of processing the request, it picked up the value of A. Okay. It picked up the value of A. The moment it picked up the value of A, that information that server 1 picked up the value of A is updated inside your primary session. The moment the info is being updated inside the primary session of your primary server, it gets replicated in the secondary server of your secondary session. Your primary server took the value of B. That information is updated in the primary session of your primary server. Immediately, it gets replicated in secondary session of your secondary server. So whatever your primary server is trying to do, that info will be updated into the primary session. And whatever the data that is updated in the primary session, it will immediately get replicated in the secondary session. This particular concept of replicating of the session data between the primary session of your primary server and secondary session of your secondary server is called as session replication. Clear? It is called as session replication.
Shiva, I have a question here.
Yep.
This was asked in an interview yesterday only. How, in the form of, in which form of the data is stored in the secondary server, like cookies or,
In case of a WebLogic server, it is stored either in the form of a cookie, either in the form of an database entry, either in the form of an file, either in the form of an data in the server memory, or either in the form of an cookie. There's another storage, okay? In either of the 5 forms, it gets stored. But in case of a JBoss, I'll come to that.
okay, sure.
Okay?
No problem.
Any questions, anyone, other than this?
No, sure, clear.
Manju?
No, clear.
Clear about what exactly is meant by session replication?
Yep.
Okay, so imagine that after the server 1 did the summation of A, it updated the value of the primary session. That info got reflected in the secondary session. Okay, now for some reasons, okay, your primary server went down. Your primary server went down. There was some problem on the operating system or on the DB, or some reason it went down. Now your S2, which is now, will be a primary server. When I'm saying your S2 will be a primary server, then the cycle repeats. But one important question we need to think of here is that now S2 would start taking the value of doing the application evaluation again from step number 1, where it picks up the value of A, picks up the value of B, or how would it start working on the application? Because of the session data that is getting replicated on the secondary session, it knows that, okay, your primary server completed till A plus B operation. I need to continue from C operation. Clear?
Shiva, there are 4 servers here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how does the primary server know to hit or pass on the replicate the session to onto the secondary server as S2 only? Why can't it go and hit S3 or S4 or something like that?
It can go to either of them.
How does it know?
It's a, as I said, it's an intelligence that the JBoss internally has. Okay, if you see the WebSphere application server also, all the servers will be participating in the clustering, but the session data, rather than getting stored in the server memory, it gets stored either in a database or outside the server JVM heap, so that all the servers will keep on updating the session data in that particular location or they try to fetch the session information from that particular location. Coming back to your question, which one would be a primary, which one would be a secondary, how that happens, that's the intelligence inbuilt by default the application server has. Clear? It's something like a simple example I'll give you. The moment you touch and heat, okay, a very hot object or a very chilled object or the very spicy object, you immediately get the feelings in the, oh my god, it's too spicy or it's too hot. You immediately take out your hand. How that is happening up? Automatically, your brain through your nervous system has the capability. You know about the disease called as leprosy? What is the biggest drawback for them?
You can't move body parts.
That's one. Second
No,
thing.
no, they don't have sensation.
Perfect. They don't have sensation. You hit them, you poke them, whatever you do, they don't feel any sense of that. That's the biggest pain area for them. Okay, and the consequence of that is they get into a kind of an immobility situation. Okay, yeah, but I just took it as an example. Anyone, any questions on session replication till here?
No.
When are you clear?
Yes.
Cool. So in case of a JBoss application server, if you see the InfiniSpan, okay, InfiniSpan, okay, has a cache container. It's inside this particular cache container, the session would be replicated. If you're trying to see the cache container collision web, okay, it is meant for replicating of the session data related to your web applications. Session data that is there related to the web application, the cache container collision web is responsible. If you have any singleton service, okay, to support the clustering of the singleton service, this is what it is being used. Similarly, the Hibernate and the local and the EJB. If you see in case of an WebSphere or a not WebSphere, in case of a WebLogic application server, I clearly make a distinction about what is the application I'm trying to deploy. According to that, okay, the corresponding session replication happens. Stub replication, web application replication, like that. There's a concept in the WebLogic. In WebSphere we have only one thing called as clustering. But in case of an JBoss, it inherited the concepts from the WebLogic. That's the reason by default, depending upon the cache container we are picking up, or depending upon the cache container that the JBoss uses, according to that, the clustering would be supported. Clear?
What is it, singleton?
Singleton, if you see the singleton service, okay, the singleton service is nothing but we have this one. I forgot. The classes, we have some special classes that have been declared in the JBoss. I think it's like a design patterns, okay, wherein which we can't create the objects to that particular Java classes. Those kind of classes are called as singleton classes. That's what is being referred here. Okay, let me confirm once. Okay, singleton.
I mean, with reference to what is used, like what is its significance over here?
Now, again, if you see the EJB cache container is mainly meant for caching of your stateful session replication of your EJB applications. Web is meant for the caching of the web-based application. Hibernate, again, it's meant for entity caching or for the Hibernate-based cachings. Okay. Similarly, singleton cache container is for the singleton. Okay. If you see in the Java word, there are something called as design patterns.
Okay.
In infrastructure terminology, we call them as golden images. You know about the golden images, the concept of golden images?
So these are basically different cache containers for each of these services, like web or EJB or anything like that. Okay.
Yes. Clear, everyone?
Can we? Is there any sort of property? I mean, configuration for this needed, like
this one I'll be using it, or that one I'll be using it, or this is a property related to the web-based caching I'll be using, or there's a property.
How much cache should be used or something like that.
You see here, there's something called as an attributes coming here. You can define or write the concepts, but I strongly recommend not to touch them. Okay, each and every container will have their own properties. Clear? SFSB means, don't think it's a bigger one, stateful session bean. Your EJB, suppose the session replication of your stateful session beans. Clear? Anyone, any questions till here?
No.
If you don't have any questions, let's pause here the discussion here. Okay, tomorrow morning when we try to resume back, we'll try to talk about the local invalidate caching concepts that are coming below that. Okay, what exactly are this? What is the advantage of them? We'll discuss, and accordingly, depending upon the availability of the time, we'll try to also talk about the mod clusters and the lab related to them. Okay?
Sure, request.
Yep.
Material, please.
Oh shit, I really forgot. My bad, my bad. Give me Sunday. I'll definitely send you by Sunday. Definitely. This is my word. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone, any more questions before I close the meeting?
I'm not sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Bye. Good night. Sorry. Good day.
Sure, one request.
Yep.
Tomorrow, please explain me XA and non-XA.
Yep.
JBoss.
Before we begin the start of the session, give me a reminder.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone. Bye. Good day.
Bye.
Please be available at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Don't
Yeah.
forget.